waiting for some people to join, but let's get on with that out of respect for those of you who are on time. Welcome back for this week. I hope you're all having a great week. We are here at Link Up and ID. We've got plenty going on, so it's a good time. I feel very grateful given COVID and all the challenges that are still out there for everybody, you know, some more than others, of course. But thanks for dialing in. So today's webinar is going to focus on the instinct to complete. We're going to unpack that instinct as we've done in prior weeks for the verify drive and the authenticate drive to look at what is it that people really admire and cherish about that ID. Those of us who know the ID fairly well know there are all sorts of attributes and traits about each drive, but there are some things that you may not realize really impact others, or the things that you value about yourself may not be what other people really appreciate and value. So often we underrate ourselves, you know, we think, well, surely everyone would do that. And in fact, not everyone does do it. And it's something that not only is unique to you or people like you, but is something incredibly cherished by other people around you. So I think that's a great discussion. And it's great to hear it from people, you know, that that are opposite to you. So you get to hear it in the flesh. It's not just textbook stuff. It's actually meaningful to hear it from other people. But as we do with all of our webinars, excuse me, given that these get-togethers are about helping people stay in stride, excuse me, I don't know what's happened to my voice, in a very challenging time, you know, the way to navigate that always, no matter what's going on, is to come from a place of being true to yourself and showing up each and every day in an authentic way so that you can cast the best possible light on everyone around you and you know, get the most out of the day for yourself. And so we just want to check in and ask you, you know, to stop and think for a second, how is this week treating you? How are you showing up? You know, are you thriving and in stride? Or are you getting pulled off track with who you are and meeting other people's needs and expectations, but maybe you're not as in stride yourself? So we have a way of representing that. We call it looking at someone's PPI score, or peak performance indicator. And it's really simple. It's on a scale of 0 to 10. If 10 is you're really in stride, absolutely thriving, you're energized, you're loving life, you're doing really well. And a 1 out of 10 is you can hardly get yourself out of bed of a morning because it just feels so pointless, meaningless, and you just don't want to face the day. What number comes up for you today? And I would just ask you in the chat column there to the right to just put down the number that resonates for you today, that you think, yeah, this is where I'm at today. So you can see we've got Peter and Alona as 8s, and Ellen and Sarah as a 9. Should have a break more often, Sarah. Amanda is an 8. Joel is a 5. 10 for Gail. Good on you, Gail. 8s and 8s, 7s. Judy's in a great place. That's right. Some people don't resonate as much with the score. They just resonate with, yeah, I'm really in stride or I'm not. That's okay too. It's more just whatever language and mechanism you want to use. It's just stopping and thinking, not only am I in stride and what's my number, but for me to get to at least an 8, 9, or 10, what would I need to do to get there? So can I just ask, Sarah, yours is interesting. That's a really high score for you. And it may be because you've just had a break and things are good, but what's behind your number? Maybe you could share for the group what's going on to help someone who's a 6672 get to such a great score.
Well, I do think having a break helps, because I think it'd been like over a year since I had like a fully unplugged holiday. I don't know. The summer's here. Lots of cool things are happening at work and personally. I coached CrossFit this morning and that went really cool. We had like a new person that I helped a lot. I don't know, just feel
Okay.
good.
So if we look at your ID, it's all about harmony and everything going like clockwork. So is that sort of close to how you feel?
Yeah, I guess that's true. I think that I'm getting to all of the things that I want to get to, and there's not always necessarily enough time in the day, but I start the day knowing that. So
right. Pretty much goes to plan, which is, you know, anytime a completer feels like things are going to plan and they're checking off the boxes that they had intended, that's always a great feeling, you know?
Yeah.
So good on you. Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
And then Joel, what about for you? You mentioned you hear that you're a 5. Do you mind sharing with the group what's going on for you?
Yeah, I just feel like with my job and the business, just sort of caught in a bit of a monotonous kind of rut, just kind of doing the same thing every day. And I feel just a little bit, just the way we've built the business, it's all around me. And for me to do my job well, I need to be really consistent and really structured, and that kind of seems to work against my personality. And we're sort of looking to introduce some changes that we hope are going to really help that. But and try to give me a little bit more time to have a little bit of variety in my life. But just feel like I'm a little bit trapped with no options, which is really important for me.
And well, for those new to ID, Joel's ID is all about freedom, autonomy, having options, and not feeling that boxed in feeling. Probably one of the worst words that is totally demotivating to that ID is trapped. When you feel stuck or trapped, and whether that's your mind saying that or other people sort of using those words with you, they're almost paralyzing sort of words. So I can well understand if that's how you feel, Joel, why you would be down at a 5 level. We've got some people on the call though, like Joe and Alona and so on, who are really similar to you ID wise. And I'd be really interested to hear from them, because I'm sure they would really resonate with that feeling at times. Maybe there's some clues they can give you. I know the obvious one is to make the changes to the business, but maybe there are other things you can do also, like today, that can help you get to a better place energy wise, because the fact that that's the environment, that it is what it is, and then there's how you can now show up to address all of that and be in a better place. Because with your ID, I mean, you don't even like yourself when you're not in that great place. You know what I mean? Like the energy that you want to exude is one that excites you, let alone anyone else around you. So let's just hear from, if Joe or Elaine, if you've got something you'd like to share that you can really resonate. Do you resonate with what Joel has shared?
Absolutely. He said the word trapped, or someone said the word trap, and my whole body just sort of shuddered. It was really terrible. And I forget how visceral that reaction is. So I have been working from home for, the last 16 months or whatever it's been now since COVID. And I was having that feeling, and I've been doing a lot of sort of strategizing about how to do that. I've changed my desk around. I've gone out into places that I can in nature. I change my daily routine around. Like, there are small things. And then this weekend, our world opened up and I got to go to a wedding in California, like totally out of the blue. And it was like, yay! So that was a little bit of a cheat, but there is something about finding just something that's a little bit where I have some options. And it just makes such a big difference energetically, because to Paul's point, I don't like who I am when I'm feeling trapped, because boy, howdy, I'm not subtle about it. And people around me are very, very clear. They're like, I'm worried about you, Ilona. And really what they're saying is, oh my gosh, we have to deal with this. Right. So yeah, good luck.
So Alona, even something like I'm sitting here looking at Joel thinking, what if you just went and took if not the day off, just went and did something today that was fun, like went kayaking or, something that was physical, outdoors and different and unexpected, to just change your own energy up. Would that help?
One of my mini strategies when I sort of hit the wall that way is I find a place on a map that I've never been to before, and I spend 3 or 4 hours going there with no plan. I'm just going to go dink around. I'm going to find a coffee place. I'm going to see where else I can get gas. I'm going to see what the trees look like there, if there's a dog park. There's something about absolutely not knowing what's coming that is incredibly invigorating.
Sorry, Paul. And hi, Joel. I just joined just a couple of minutes ago, so I just missed the context of what you were talking about. But I'm sure I'll catch up quick. So what was it?
Just if you were feeling trapped. Sorry, I'll let Joel talk.
I was just saying, I'm just caught in this kind of monotonous routine at the moment, and just being Amanda's my wife. We run a business together, and it's becoming sort of really quite structured, and the whole business kind of centers around me as the only kind of revenue earner in the business. and it's making me feel trapped, and I feel like I have to be structured to be able to do my job well and make sure we, keep the business running. And I just feel like I don't have any kind of variety. It's kind of almost the same thing every day, and that's actually really good advice, Ilana. That's a great idea. I always feel, actually yesterday I had a day I was working from home, and I just randomly walked up to the shops and got some stuff to cook some food, and I was like walking, and I was like really happy because it was just different, and I didn't plan to go. I just decided at the drop of the hat, and I could feel that I was quite happy, but I think I need to do that more often.
I just want to add one more thing, Joel, and that is that there was a time in my life where I had to be really structured. I was a single mom. I had teenage kids. Like, there was pickup and drop off and food and homework and all that stuff. And what I finally did was go, okay, here are the things that are non-negotiable, right? Got to feed the kids, got to make sure they're tucked in at night, got to do this, got to do this. And here are all the places I have options. I can make Indian food. I can go for a walk in the middle of the day. I can, who knows what, right? And just going, yep, those things are mandatory. Those are locked in, baby. And then going, and here's what isn't, right? And here's where I can, wear my pajamas to work today, or, who knows what, right? Really gave me that sense of, oh yeah, it's not all one thing. And with a 2 and verify, that all or nothing can feel really absolute.
Yeah,
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are great strategies, Ilona, and I think probably the only thing I would add is it's about also giving myself permission to do those things, because sometimes we can be really structured and really locked in, but it's actually locked in up here, not and adding to what Ilona's saying. So it's actually understanding what your commitments are to others, but then it's actually, for me, it's giving myself permission to go and do things that I need to do to feel free and to feel like I'm having fun. Because without fun, everything's pretty boring. So I need to do things that make me enjoy life, and a lot of that for me is about reaching out to other people. So, and that can be as simple as walking down the road to the shops and having a chat to 3 or 4 people along the way, and then I'm as happy as Larry. So I think it's really for me, it's about giving myself permission to do it and structuring that free time in amongst my structured time. So yeah.
So Joel, as you hear these sorts of ideas from Ilona and Joe, what happens for you? Do they feel like things you can apply today that would help you, help make a difference to your own energy, and therefore maybe what else you can accomplish through the day?
Definitely, yeah. Look, I do have sort of to what Joe was saying, and also Ilona's. I have a little bit of guilt of doing that me time kind of thing, and just feel like. If I go, then things are going to fall over or whatever. But when you actually do that and you come back and everything's fine, you feel a lot better. You're in a happier mindset and you feel a lot more efficient. So you might lose an hour, but then you gain all this efficiency. So I think it's just about, for me, it's more do it before I get to that point, as opposed to letting it build up and then I sort of have an outburst or something like that. That's really good advice. Thank you.
Joel, when they say when the woodsman's taking time out to sharpen the axe, he's not losing time.
Yeah. Have a list of things that you just got random ones, and then you'll probably go do something else anyway. But having the list probably just gives you a quick go-to in the meantime.
Awesome. Well, Amanda's high and complete. I know we're talking about that today, so she'll probably be writing some things down for me. And she's like, "Get out and do this."
Amanda, what about for you? When you hear this for Joel, does it seem like really weird that he would just go and goof off and do something really different, or is it almost like what you'd want to see? How does it? Because you've got such an opposite ID. How does that land for you?
Yeah, I think before I knew ID, I would think, why would you just randomly do things without a plan and without thinking and whatever? But now knowing his ID and mine, and as he was saying, things are very structured and, every day there's a routine, and that's great for me. Like, I'm happy with that. So, and I have been telling him, call this friend that you haven't caught up and just go out for dinner or whatever. But it's different, I think, when it's coming from me. as opposed to when it's coming from Joe and Ilona, and he can relate to that. So yeah, I totally encourage and support him to just go and do things in the business there, and we have enough people that can just look after things and just, and like we said, it might be just an hour a day and whatever, and he's gonna come back and feeling much better, because yeah, when he's not in stride, everyone can notice. It's very easy to see. So
that's what we talk about, casting the shadow, you know, and more than anything, you want to just cast it for yourself, you know, it's so that you just enjoy and you feel good about the energy you're giving yourself. But it's I would just say, Joel, take notice of what's happening inside you. Like as you have that conversation, you hear from like Joe and Ilona and Amanda, like you can feel whether the energy in you is a positive energy or whether it's like pushing you further into a hole. And if it's enlightening and enlightening of you, like then go with that, you know, it'll make a difference. And you don't need to spend a lot of time. It's just having the break and having the freedom, and sometimes it comes to you, sometimes you've got to create it yourself. But when you go and do it, oh my God, you just feel $1 million, and it's not lost time because of the effect it has on, you know, on you when you come back. And who knows that you might end up working till midnight anyway and making up for it because you feel so damn pumped, you know? So yeah, good luck with it. I think it'll make a big impact for you.
Can I just add in, whilst I don't have the authenticate, the way I do it, I've got a big deadline on Monday, and I just set myself little challenges. So I have a challenge, I'll do this by that. And if I can do it in half the time, then I've got some extra time to do something that's more fun. And
Yeah,
so I find if I can put the challenges around what I do, I still meet the deadline, and I do it probably in a terribly unorthodox way if other people who don't understand improvise would do it, but it just happens and it works for me doing it that way. And I just always am setting myself mini challenges so I can get around the structure. I don't know if that helps you, Joel, but it certainly helps me.
Definitely. I mean, I have tasks and things that I have to do throughout the day, and without setting a deadline, it will just sit there looking at me, and I'm like, I'm not excited by that task because, well, I could just have the whole day to do it, or I could do it at the end of the day or whatever. But if there's a reward at the end of it, and it has to be done within an hour, then I'm like, oh, cool, race. It's a challenge, a race against the clock, and then at the end there's gold at the end of the rainbow. So that's a good idea.
Good stuff. Thanks, Joel. Thanks, Gail. Has anyone else got something on their mind around where they're at right now in their score, whether it's a high or a lower score that they wouldn't mind sharing? No, everyone's good. Okay, well then let's move on and talk about the complete drive. So I'll just quickly show you a slide that we've been building here for those who maybe haven't been part of this previously. So this is what we've been building through these webinars, is what others admire and cherish about your ID. And in previous webinars, we've unpacked the verify drive, we've unpacked the authenticate drive, and today we're going to do complete. And so if I just, excuse me, I'm sorry for my voice. If I look at the avoid verify drive, you know, and I'll say that because Joel, we've just been speaking about you, and you're a 2 in that drive and then a 7 in authenticate. So as a 2 in verify, this is what other people on the call were saying. You know, when you show up and you're in stride, those of you who are in avoid verify, and especially when you're a 2, that's like really strong, then it's the acceptance, you know, the fact that there's no judgment about me or life. You just accept things for how they are. That's incredibly empowering to a lot of people. The sense of equality, that they see you talk just as enthusiastically to the janitor as to, you know, the prime minister. Like that's really, people get a lot from seeing that sense of no judgment around status or anything like that. The empathy, the feeling that you have, where you actually feel the feelings of other people, not just resonate with it intellectually. The lateral thinking and the sense of knowing, you know, you just have a gut feel on things as, you know, what to do or not. That's an example of what's being played back. And then we've done that for all 4 of those directions. And so today with the Instinct to Complete, which is all about people, doing things to a plan, having a sense of order and structure, and, checking off all the boxes as you go along. And then if you're an avoid complete person, we'll talk about that as well. And that's more around the energy you have to get things off the ground, to pioneer it, get started, to experiment, to if there's no plan, it doesn't phase you. You still will like have a go, So let's talk about that drive. And we'll start with the people who are driven by the instinct to complete, to talk about what is it that, for those of you who observe them, what really stands out to you that you admire and cherish. I'll just take the slide down so I can see you all a little better and make it easier for you. But that's what we're going to be building. And then we'll, in our next call, we'll do the improvised drive, and then we'll have that as a little tool we can share with you guys. You can maybe hold on to. So for those of you who understand the ID, who would like to maybe just shoot off? Yeah, Joe, go.
So my husband's a use complete, and I love the way that he has an end in mind. And even though I try and distract him along the way by throwing all sorts of other information and ideas and thoughts in, generally he'll continue on until he's actually finished what it is that he's in his plan. So I really like that. Whereas for me, it's either doesn't get finished often, or it takes much longer because I get distracted along the way.
Yep.
So yeah, I really value that ability to just stay focused on the end result, and even just saying to me, no, it's not in my plan. Even though it annoys the hell out of me at times, I really appreciate that.
That's true. That's true. Execution is their, forte. Like that, those of us who aren't like that, we have the best of intentions, but the completers actually, get stuff done. And in getting that thing done, keep other things done. It's not just, we all get stuff done, but it's the ability to keep all the spinning plates, moving along, that really is their forte. And we've got some really strong completers on this call. I mean, I'm looking at Laura as an 8, Judy, who's a really strong 7. There's a bunch of people here who've got that drive. Sukmani is an 8 incomplete. So there's some, Mary's a 7. There's some strong completers here. Sarah, strong 7. What else, guys?
I love, just specifically with Amanda, I just love how you can trust her to do something, and you can kind of close your eyes and you just know that it's going to be done. Definitely working with my drives. Say for example, we have something on the weekend or something planned or whatever. She's like my little personal diary, because she just knows exactly kind of what we've got when, and it's just being able to close, because I like to come up with ideas and new things and different things, and if it's something that we need to execute, it's just something that you can just close your eyes and not have to worry about.
You put a nice spin on that, Joel, which is about trust. It's one thing to admire it, but you added a nice little nuance, which is you can actually trust it in the person. And there's a real comfort that comes from that, just knowing they're around you. Because what I find is that even, it's not always that the completer gets stuff done. By having them around you, you get stuff done too, because you feel that sense of accountability. It's really awesome. It's a great nuance. Thanks for sharing that. I'd like to welcome the newest author to the call today, Catherine. Well done. Had her book launched last night. Congratulations. So we're just talking about the instinct to complete, Catherine, and what stands out to people about being, what stands out, what do you really cherish about people who are driven to complete?
Yep.
Right. Anyone else who would like to just share what they observe?
So I'll go. I have a son who's a youth complete, and he's in college. And what I appreciate about, one of the many things I appreciate about him, is this sense of family history. So he doesn't just, there's not just accountability around tasks, but around making sure that we're remembering some of these tradition things. And the other day he said to me, this has nothing to do with family tradition, but what I like is that he thinks in the across longer time spans. And he said to me, okay, I've come up with an investment plan for you. He's 21 years old. I've come up with an investment plan for you because I'm concerned that you're not going to have enough money when you retire. And if you send me X amount of money every month, I'm going to invest it for you and send it. And he said, and do you want to know what it's doing every month? And I'm like, no, but I really appreciate you're doing it. He's like, you really don't want to know what's going on? I'm like, no, I appreciate that you're doing it. And he's like, okay. He says, it's a little self-defense too. I don't want you moving in with me when you're, 90. And I'm like, okay, fine. but I love that he's 21. I mean, he could just think about him, and he just thinks about his community in that way. And I just find that so lovely.
Elena, I'm sort of thinking to myself, if you send me some money every month, I'll take care of your retirement as well. maybe we can all help here. This isn't just about your son.
It's just like, I would never at 21 have thought about that from my parents, right? Like,
it's beautiful, isn't it?
Let me look all the way into your future and make sure that you're and I'm like, I'm a responsible adult. I mean, I have managed to make it this far, and all those things. But he's like, I'm just not sure it's right. I'm like, okay, fine. Anyway,
that is such a beautiful example because it encapsulates, the sense of forward planning of the completer, the sense of their need for security, not just of themselves, but the people that are in their world. That sense of harmony.
The tucking in.
But
right?
the fact that at 21, that's what he's thinking of. I mean, it says a lot about his values, but it really speaks to the way a completer rolls. Is they're not just looking ahead at tomorrow or this year. It really is the longer term, and the traditions, and the word you didn't use it, but it's in there, is the sentiment,
Yeah.
They're very sentimental around those traditions, and they keep them alive. I can be sentimental about them and then forget about them, and other people remember. Like, I know when it even comes to, say, decorating the Christmas tree, I remember that it's sentimental that we decorate it, but I wouldn't remember where everything goes on the Christmas tree that, might have been important to someone else. But all of those little careabouts come really naturally to the completer.
So I have to be really careful. Like this year, he's in college, right? I still sent him a chocolate Easter bunny, and he was like, I really appreciate that, Mom. I'm like, okay. Like,
yeah, it's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. So one of the things that stands out to me, it blows me away all the time, is the ability to scope things out. That things that I think are going to take 5 minutes or, a day or whatever, a completer can say, Paul, that's going to take you, typically for me, I've figured it out, it's like 3 times as long as it seems for me. And they're always bang on. Now, I just love that ability. And I'd sort of like a joke for me, because I'm like, how can you possibly see that? It's just like pulling it out of thin air, and yet it's bang on. And I know they're right, even though I can't see it. What I know is that I'm always underscoping, but I love that it's what they see and it's automatic to them. I love seeing it play it like instinctively.
Oh, I've got a couple of comments, if I may. I'm really conscious of one time when one of Bethany's friends was looking for his first job at the same time as planning his retirement. And he was 70 and complete. And I'm not even planning my retirement, and I probably should be retired by now. So I just find it really just such an interesting ability. And my PA is high complete, and she has such structure around what she does. I just say, oh, here, do this. And it comes back all neatly with all these things with little dot points. And I just think to myself, why can't I do that? So that really is such a good thing to have in a workplace where you need that structure. You need to make sure that all the right documents go to somebody and half of them aren't missing. Whereas if I did it, I'm not sure, even though I know what should go, I'm not sure they'd all get there. Yep. So I just find that something so special.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you. How is this landing for those of you who are completers? Are these the things that you would say you thought were good about yourself, or are you surprised that are people commenting on things that you didn't think were that big a deal? It's just like, I thought everyone did that, or it didn't really stand out to you. How is it landing for you?
It's landing beautifully, Pearl. I had Alex's dog Pearl for the last 12 days, and so she took her home today, and I think she's still here. Sorry, Paul.
No problem. No
So
problem.
anyway,
There's the dog right there.
do what?
I can see
Oh.
Alex is holding up Pearl right now.
There's Pearl. Hi, honey.
Laura, what about for you as a strong completer, Laura? How does this land for you? Is it a surprise or does it resonate? How's it land for you?
It's not a surprise to me. I'm always thinking about next steps and what it's going to take to get there and planning. That's big for me, big. But one thing that I do have difficulty with is knowing how long things will take. I will know how long things will take. I mean, not how long things will take. I will know the steps I will need to take, but I have a hard time judging how long that will take me. And so I'm a little bit puzzled about that. But because I tend to get down in the weeds and I sometimes get lost. And so that's just a side note. But yeah, it's nothing else is surprising at all.
Okay. That's an interesting nuance. So Amanda, is that the same for you? Would you say that you know the steps, but don't feel as confident about how long things will take, or is that okay with you? That comes to you.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with that. I usually, as soon as I hear an idea, usually from an improviser or someone like Joe, I'll know straight away. Yeah, okay, this I already have a plan. I'll have a plan in my mind, and I'll know, okay, this is gonna take a week or 2 weeks. But I feel like, yes, maybe Laura, it's also the verify and the avoid improvise. I don't know. The combination is we have I feel like I have a tendency of wanting to get things perfect, and that could delay me. So if I could spend a lot of time trying to make something so perfect and with no mistakes, and so yeah, that could take longer. And sometimes I need someone to go, all right, we just need this done and that's it. And I'll go, it's 95% good. So, all right, let's just go with it. So maybe that's what it is.
Yeah,
I think that's
you're
a
right
big part
on
of it.
Yeah.
That's great input, Amanda. And I it's because you'd add even more power to what you're doing, Laura, if you then thought, okay, I can. So you tell yourself a different story, which is I can predict the time, but where I might be out is when I try and perfect it. And is that where we want to go with this? It'd be super helpful around people like me. I would really value that in you to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's cool.
I remember, when I was first training with you, Paul, the question was, when will it be done? If it has to be, it has to get done. Right. But what is the definition of done? Yep. Let's agree on that.
Yep.
So that it doesn't fall into that cyclical perfection thing when done is done.
So Paul, I've been curious for a long time because on my report it says that there are 2% of the world, that 2% of the world's population that think like me.
Yep.
And so for a long time I've been curious because since I've really taken on the cloak of the idea and accepted myself in this role and realize that the things like I mentioned before with the homeowners association here, where I'd feel resentful that I had to do everything. Yep. And then I put on this cloak, and then I realize now that the reason things get done is because I move them forward. So I thought, well, I wonder how I could find out about these other people, the 2%. What is 2% of 7 billion? And so I figured that out. I don't know, it's 720 billion, I think, or something like that. I don't know. And
It's a lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot. And so then I said, well, where are they? So I looked up how many countries are there. There's 95 countries. So I took that into that, and it's, I think, 141 million. That's, so I'm, if you know, run into anybody, I'm looking for those 141. Think that's a good project?
You'll find them occasionally, but that's the point. It's a very intense ID, and it's like with all IDs that are intense, every ID has its strengths and vulnerabilities. So if you've got an ID that's not that intense, so if you're like, who's someone on the call I saw before, I think it was Vanessa, is you like 7436, or I can't find you quickly. Maybe she's jumped off.
7526.
7526. Okay, so it's a 2. But if you've got someone who's like between 7 and 3, then that's not that intense. So it's 734. So Peter's 7643. It's not that intense, right? Jordan is 7634, very similar. So it's not that intense. So the good thing about that is you'll get on with a lot of people. The downside is you won't maybe stand out as much as someone who's intense. When someone's really intense, like Catherine or Gail, or even you as a really strong completer, Judy, we call it a 70 when there's no 3 or 2 or
Right.
1. What happens then is you really stand out because of the intensity. But the problem with standing out is that you're often the exception, or that it's lonely. There can be a loneliness factor. It's like, why doesn't everyone else get this? Why doesn't everyone else move fast enough? Why do I feel like I'm not understood really? I've had so many people over the years who are older in their years say to me, honestly, Paul, it like hurts me to say this, you're the first person who really understands me. And even then I feel like I hardly understand them, but it's an element of the way that they tick that's been dear to their heart, So it's we've said once before, self-awareness is one thing, self-acceptance is another. To sort of come to the point where you go, okay, so I am intense, like I'm a 1, like Amanda and Laura are a 1 in improvise. I'm a 1 in authenticate, that's going to be exceptional. There's so many great things about being that intense, and there's going to be a loneliness about it too. So suck it up and get on with life. Like, you just look at the positives, be aware of where it might be, an issue, and just get on with it. It's not going to change. There's no point moping about it or feeling like, why am I the only one who's a 1 or a 70 or whatever? Use it to your advantage.
I remember, way back in 1994, one of my first clients, and we had a really good, friendship besides client. And one day we were talking, I can still see this. And she said, "You are so intense." I thought, well, I'm just being present.
Yeah.
I'm just here.
Yeah.
That's all.
It wouldn't feel intense to you, but it would to someone who's not like
Right.
you. If it was
And
for me doing it with, maybe because I'm intense, maybe it wouldn't feel intense, but to someone else, it would. Yeah.
Talk about being lonely and finding other people in the world. Don't give up hope, Judy, because my best mate, I met him while I was out, and we just got on straight away, and we've been best mates for years. And guess what his ID is? We just did it a couple of months ago.
Same?
Exactly the same.
As yours?
Yep, exactly the same.
Wow. That's incredible. Hey, Jose, were you going to share something, Jose? You're on mute, so you just need to jump on.
Yeah. The other computer's no good, so I've jumped on this one.
Okay.
I've left it on though, so I'm here and what my number is, but it's not this one. It's down there somewhere. Anyway, what I was going to say is I've just realised that I was very, very fortunate 49 odd years ago when in 72, when I arrived in this country, that I was a migrant. Because then every time I felt those feelings of being very different and alone, and, I had an excuse. It's because I'm different to everybody. I'm a migrant. I'm the one with the brown eyes. Everyone else around me's got blue eyes, that sort of thing. And so then I had a choice of, well, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to try and pretend I'm one of them? Or am I going to validate and continue to be me? And I went, well, obviously they're never going to accept me anyway. I'll just be me. And so, but it was very lonely. It's very, you know, the only one in a sea of everyone else in the tribe holding each other's hands and saying we're all one. And yet when I every now and then I'd look around me, I had this posse of people because of the shadow. Now I've got this language to describe it. Back then I had no idea. I kept going, why are all these people following me around? Why all these people want to be near me? Why do they know that this puts a target on their backs, but it seems okay because they seem to be looking for the opportunity to get a target on them, to be different, to be themselves. And they go, well, he can get away with it. Let's hang out with him. It's safe in his environment. But it's very lonely. Yes, I totally relate to all of that.
And
in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to the avoid complete drive and talk about that, because I want to make sure we, you know, honor those here on the call, especially who are avoid complete. So maybe some of the completers would like to kick off and share, what is it when you look at the avoid complete people, and we've got a bunch of them on this call, what is it about the avoid complete drive that you really cherish and admire?
I think the ability to change direction on a dime, or, you know, like, oh, this urgent thing has come up, like, can you do this instead? And them to be happy to do that. It's pretty cool.
Well, and you added the nuance, Sarah, which is, and happy to do it.
Yeah.
Because as a completer, your need for harmony would be, you know, yeah, I'll do it for you. Like you say, you're doing it for me. I'll do it for you, Paul, but it doesn't mean you're happy to do it, that you're energized to do it.
Yeah. I'd, you know, be exhausted at the end of the day, whereas someone avoid complete would be like, woo,
right.
What's next?
Right. That's great nuance. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, that's why Alex and I swing together and go, rise higher and 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 higher.
And what is it about that? What is it about Alex's avoid complete that you're referring to, Judy?
She's such an incredible collaborator. She is very flexible. Wow. It'll be interesting because we're going on a trip Friday morning to Glenwood Springs. And I've joked and said, because we both agree we have so much to talk about. And so I've said, I wonder what it'll be like if we leave Friday morning and we get back Sunday night, because we have so much time, you know, if we just go and talk and talk and talk and talk, what that will be like. Well, maybe we'll take some naps. So it's an adventure. We always, whatever we do, it's an adventure, and we're in the adventure and just swinging. And, you know, well, do you want to do this? Well, not particularly. Well, how about if we do it? Okay, this way. Okay, great. Let's do it.
That's a very interesting twist, because I don't think a lot of avoid completes feel like they're creating an adventure for others. But when I hear it from you and think about it, it's really true, actually. It would feel, I think, for a lot of completers, they'd feel like their life is more of an adventure for being with an avoid complete. Correct. You know, Amanda, you'd resonate with that with Joel?
And
yeah, I think the ability to be flexible and, you know, wake up on a Saturday and go, oh, wouldn't it be great if we went and did this and whatever? And we're like, okay, yeah, let's go and do it. And it's an adventure and hasn't been planned and thought out. But obviously, as a completer, I need to have made a plan to not do anything on that Saturday. Otherwise, then that's going to stress me out. But as what Sarah was saying, the flexibility in changing direction and being happy about it, it's like, okay, someone just threw this at you and you've got to jump on it. And as a completer, yeah, we're going to do it. But you get to the end of the day and you're like, oh, it didn't go according to my plan. Whereas for the avoid completer, it's like, what plan? I had a great day. Things were happening and whatever. So yeah.
And one
I
more
really
note.
relate to the sense of adventure when things go absolutely pear-shaped and never turn out according to what we had all thought would happen. I'm going, oh, this is so good! What a great adventure!
Yeah, it's a good word. It's a good word. Okay, Laura.
For me, being a completer, I'm always looking for things that I know, parameters, and being able to plan. And when somebody comes along that's an avoid completer, it's like a fresh breath of air. It's like, I'm always boxed in, but I need that security. And when somebody comes through and provides that, window, it's like it's a lovely flexibility that I really admire in folks that are avoid completers. I really appreciate that, and I think that provides the dance that Judy was talking about, because we need you guys. We really do.
Such a cool expression. I mean, I've never thought of it like that. That an avoid completer can be to a completer is like a breath of fresh air because of the freshness, the change up. It's really cool, isn't it? I think it's nice for those of you on the call who are avoid complete to know that that's what you bring. When you walk in the room without you trying to do anything, by you being just in stride and who you are, you bring this breath of fresh air to the people around you that may be quite different. It's really cool.
And on the topic of lonely, I have been lonely all my life until June of 2019, when Alex came into my life.
Wow.
I have not experienced lonely since then.
Wow. There you go, Alex. That's a beautiful compliment. Beautiful. You don't even realize the gift you're bringing, do you? Sometimes, you think you're just doing your thing, and yet you can be absolutely impacting someone's life and changing their life. Incredible. Thanks for sharing that, Judy. Beautiful. What else stands out about the avoid complete drive, guys?
So I'm avoid complete, but I'm going to jump in.
Okay, good.
Because I realize that what I really appreciate about people who are also avoid complete is like, when we get together, it's like no time has passed. Sometimes with people who are use complete, we have to kind of ease back in and catch each other up. And with my friends who are 2s or 3s, like it could be 4 years and we just like hit the ground running. And to me, that feels very inviting.
That is so true. I have friends, I call them, we have an avoid complete relationship, and don't see each other for ages. And the instant we get back together, it is like there was no break, it's really cool. And I used to get criticized, like, why are we catching up with that person? You haven't seen them for years, like they can't be a good friend. I'm like, I know they're a really good friend. We just haven't seen each other for 4 years, and then bang, it's full on. It's cool.
Can I add to that? Coming from the UK, I have 2 lives. I have my life in Australia and I have my life in the UK. Yeah. When I'm in the UK, it's as if I've never ever left, and everything picks up and moves on. And then when I come back here, it's as if I've never been there and everything is still moving on. So it's so it's just kind of, some people might regard it as schizophrenic, but it's just that life, this life, and it's all part of the whole life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very, very, very something that's very actually it's very special, because other people don't react the same, whereas for me it's absolutely there. And if I could pick on Judy's point just for a second, I'm 4229, Jeff is 7762. We've been married for 52 years, and you know what it is? He makes me feel whole, because all the things that I don't do naturally, he does naturally. So I don't have to do them, which makes life so much simpler. So it is, that wholeness for me is why we're, still together. And whilst I'm sure I must annoy him because my state of order is nowhere near his, somehow it all fits together and works.
This is Jeff, otherwise known as Saint Jeff. You know, I sit here hearing all this, and I agree everything with with everything said on the Avoid Complete. For me, when I think about the love of my life is a 2 incomplete, and I'm a 4, so I think of myself as pretty flexible. But when I look at the way Susie rolls, I mean, she's just so never phased. Like, flexibility is one thing to bounce, but when an Avoid Complete, it's just never phased by whatever changes. You know, if there's enough or not enough, or surprises and everything. It's something, and I see it in so many, like the people that are like 2s, especially like 2 and a 3, where it's really quite intense in that direction. It really is cool to watch things change, and their energy doesn't change. They're as enthusiastic and as happy and as confident and as hopeful, and yet everything just got pulled out from underneath them. And it's like, okay, well, we'll just do this now, you know?
I think that's been, I hadn't realized it until now, I think that's been a huge recovery gift from, or ability from trauma, is, and it's almost like you don't actually accept this 3rd dimensional space-time continuum. The concept of the BFF, the best friend forever, which is what I have, and we might see each other every 2 or 3 years, and instant, right? Might only talk to each other every 3 or 4 months, and it's instant.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you're not bound by distance or time. I'm listening to Gail's comments and thinking, absolutely. So if you're not bound by space or time, then make it all up, right? And I'm often saying that to people around their planning. So why are you assuming that it is going to be the same as it was a year ago, even? And certainly during COVID, that was hugely helpful to people because they were completely lost, and they wanted their reality to be the same as it had been, and it couldn't be. And without any attachment to that, the freedom it brings you and the ability, I mean, I used to say, come on, fantasize, let's fantasize. And I was taught that by a beautiful Buddhist man many years ago. If you're going to write a script, why not write one that completely lights you up and sets you on fire? Because if you didn't know if you didn't know a year ago where you'd be today, what makes you think you're going to know where you'll be a year from now? So make it up and make it amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, it's quantum physics, it's Schrodinger's cat. It's, you don't know what you're going to be seeing anyway, so make it up. I love that.
Thanks,
can I just add to that too? I think it also, what I'm sitting here reflecting when I'm hearing people talk about this is, it really helps in traveling the world. I mean, you know, years ago, traveling the world, and I could just pick up and drop off with people. Just, it was never a problem. Pick up, and also with my Authenticate Drive, I'd have these incredibly strong, deep conversations, and then leave, and I might see them again, and I might not. But I had no expectation, and I think with Avoid Completes, I don't know if the rest of you are the same, but I don't have a huge amount of expectation about a lot of things, so I'm not disappointed. So, and it really does, just adding to what you're saying, Catherine, it just, for me, adds a lot of freedom and ability to go in whatever direction. That doesn't mean, for some of you that are use complete, it probably sounds like a nightmare, but for me, I mean, that's again, towards my improvised drive, it just adds fun, but having no expectation on a lot of stuff is just really, it's just really freeing. So
spot on. That's why that flexibility comes. That's a really nice twist to it, Joe. Is when I was talking before about, you know, like Susie never gets phased, but I think what the preset is there was no expectation in the first place. So when things changed, they didn't really change because it wasn't locked into an expectation. That's very cool, and I find that incredibly freeing. You know, like there's no judgment. So that's the avoid verify, but I mean the no judgment of not having an expectation on you. You don't feel that pressure of having to perform or deliver in a certain way, because it's just, you don't feel that expectation from them.
And can I also say that seems to flow onto other people as well. They get that I'm understanding them, not judging them. So it's like they feel free to talk as well, because they just don't feel that they're going to be judged. So it seems to have a real flow on effect.
Totally. That's a really beautiful trait. All right. Anything else before we start to wrap for today? Is there someone sitting on something they'd like to share or ask? You know, is there an avoid complete that maybe is sort of thinking, well, I really thought this was special and that hasn't been raised yet?
I guess I've got a question, like in terms of that avoid complete behavior, like one of the areas that becomes, like, I guess, a bit of tension is around, like, as an example, like when I'm with my wife in the car and we're using a GPS to go somewhere and we don't know where we're going, and we start following the directions and everything, and then it's not working because sometimes those algorithms don't work right. And for me, I'm like, okay, let's just go this way and find out what happens. Whereas for her, it's like, no, we can't change course, because if we do, we'll get lost. And like, we've had a few difficult situations in, Greek villages in the middle of nowhere. Where
just lower your camera, Richard. We can't quite see. There you go.
Better?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
You're right.
So, so I guess from that sense, it's like sometimes the flexibility and the ability to pivot is like creates opportunity and a good way to go. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you end up in a bigger mess. And I guess it's the fallout from like that situation that you need, like how to manage that, particularly when you're working with somebody who's not comfortable with being like in that turmoil.
Yeah, well, it's probably a longer conversation than we might be having time for today, but it's exactly right. Some of it comes down to the circumstances at the time, whether you're under pressure to get somewhere, and there are a bunch of circumstances, but ultimately between the two of you, so it doesn't derail the relationship, whether it's you two or whether it's anyone. It comes down to just the awareness of the differences and trusting each other and not seeing it as right or wrong. I mean, you're always going to deviate with your ID, and avoid complete's always going to bend the rules and deviate and do what wasn't expected. That will always be the case. And if your wife is the opposite, she's always going to be a stickler for wanting to stay with the rules, the plan, the system, the technology. There'll always be that tension. I guess there's figuring out which time is going to go one way or the other, but we call it a healthy tension. I mean, it's what will be energy, and it will be equally a source of conflict.
Yeah. That's right. It's about knowing when it's time for the completer to step up and go, this is my domain, get out of the way,
right.
or the avoid complete. And they're the ones that will get you into the trouble, the avoid complete, but they're also the ones to get you out of it. So,
well, I'm just thinking, like, let's say you take the lead on the navigation and you end up getting it wrong in terms of being there late. How do you know that getting it wrong didn't mean you also avoided an accident that would have occurred if you went the other way? But what you can say is, hey, babe, if we're late, I'll make sure that us being late works for us. And you pull rabbits out of hats in terms of the arrival so that it works for you, and, she doesn't have to stress it. And it then comes down to that trust. If that's between the two of you, then that works. And there might be times when she'll say, well, I need to stay with this, so that we arrive without all the stress. And, that will be more important to me. And you'll go, yep, that we'll go with that today, and make that call.
Or Paul, as a completer, you tell your avoid completer husband that you need to be there by 11 a.m. and it's actually 12 p.m. And then you're all good. You allow an hour to be lost.
That's it.
Exactly that happened to us yesterday. Jeff worked it all out on the map. I just looked at the GPS. I knew vaguely where it was. And so he's saying, do I go left or right here? So I got the map out, didn't look at it, and said, turn right. And he had the security of knowing I had the map. And I was
Right.
just doing it the way I drive, but I actually wasn't looking at the map because the place we were going was in a little corner and I couldn't have seen it anyway while I was trying to find it. So I just carried on using instinct and we got exactly there very quickly.
He is a saint. He is, I don't care what you say, Carl. He'll always be a saint. Guys, we're at the end of our time today. It's been yet again another really fun and enlightening session. Thank you to people like Joel for sharing and Judy for sharing what you shared. You make it so much richer for all of us when you share from the heart and so authentically like that. And you know, it means a lot to me that you're even on the call, let alone the sharing. So thanks everyone for being here. Have a wonderful week. Stay in stride, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.